Hello friends and welcome to my channel. In this tutorial we're going to make this adorable bunny that you can use to hold treats for your children at Easter. Isn't it just like so sweet? Another thing that I thought about for this particular project would be that you could put a couple of kids' books in it and just have it as a bed bunny. Let it sit on their bed and hold their book so that when they have their rest time, they know they can grab a book out of their little bunny and have a story time. So that's just another idea for this adorable bunny. This inspiration came from a member of my Facebook group. Her name is Holly Dyer Roberts. Thank you for your inspiration, Holly. She took several of my patterns that I have on my channel and put them together and came up with this idea. So I wanted to do a video on it so that you too could make it because I think it's absolutely adorable. I am using my 46 and 22 needle Addies for this project, and I'm using Lion brand Feels Like a Dream yarn in the colors Eggplant and Snowflake. You'll only need one ball of each, and I'll have the yarn particulars down in the description box below. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. All right, friends, grab your supplies and let's get started on this adorable bunny. All right, we are going to get started on our bunny. We're going to need to start with waste yarn. So grab a color of waste yarn that you're going to be able to easily see your working yarn color against. And that's so that we can make a straight edge at the bottom and be able to see our stitches. So taking our waste yarn, we're going to bring our last white and our first black needle in line with our yarn feeder. And we're going to do the drawstring cast on. Going in front of that first black, then behind, in front, behind, in front, and behind. All the way around. Don't put any extra tension on it, just let it slip through your fingers, and that will make the next row easier. And if it's tight coming out of your ball, then just fix that and loosen it before you continue knitting. There we go. It should be behind that last white. Into the yarn feeder it goes. Don't need to set your row counter for this because this is just our waste yarn. But you can if you like. I'm just going to count out 7 rows. And I'm going to go slow the first round, making sure those loops go down over the red teeth. That I don't get a split stitch in between those two little teeth or a tucked stitch. I want, even though waste yarn is coming out, I want it to hold up good. So I want to make sure it's done right. I'm going to pull that little tail down. This is 3, 4. I'm going to do 7 rows and I'll see you back. Coming up to the end of my 7th row of waste yarn. Now I'm going to set my counter to 0 so it's ready to go. And there we go. You're going to cut off your tail. Pop that in the center between the last white and the first black. And you're going to take your working yarn. And I'm going to use Feels Like a Dream yarn. Oh, because it does. It feels like a dream and it's absolutely perfect for this project. If I can find the end. There we go. We're going to pop that into our yarn feeder in between the last white and the first black needle. We're going to knit about 4 or 5 needles, and then we're going to help those loops down under the red teeth, the red dividers. We're going to take both the ends of our working yarn, we're going to pull it away from each other. Take a look at that. Back it up a second or two and take a look at what it does. It just makes your tension so much nicer. If you leave it, you're going to have loopy tension at the beginning of your row. Now we're going to just knit that first row slowly. It's a different kind of yarn. I want to make sure that my waste yarn picks it up nicely. That the loops from that waste yarn are going down over the red teeth. And I got to take some slack out of my ball. And there we go. I'm going to maintain the same tension. I've got just a light tension. It's between my 2 fingers there, and very light tension, but I can feel if there's any knots or any discrepancies coming out of my ball. And this is the speed I'm going to maintain. Because it's so fuzzy, I don't want it to get snagged up on those little teeth or anything, so I'm going to just maintain a nice even speed like this that I know works well with this yarn. And I'm going to knit for 43 rows. Okay, that is my normal Cuddle Bunny patterning, and you'll find my Cuddle Bunny on my channel as well. But I'm going to knit for 43, and then I'm going to come back and tell you what we're going to do next. Okay, go for 43 rows, and I'll see you when you get there. I just clicked on rounds 43, so I'm going to watch for that black divider to come around, and I'm going to stop it in front of my yarn feeder, just like so. And we've got 43 rows done for our blankie part of our bunny, the little flexible blanket that they kind of hold. I call it like a blanket kind of body. It's not stuffed. But now we want to add a section that we're going to fold up for the pocket to hold all the treats. So we're going to add 20 rows. So let's go till 63. Add 20 more rows for the fold up pocket. And when you get to row 63, I'll see you back. I made it to round 63 and I'm going to pick up my yarn. I'm going to open my latch and I'm going to pop it in between the last white and the first black, just like that. I'm not going to cut it. Then I'm going to grab worsted weight yarn. This is going to be the yarn that separates our body from the head, and we're going to pull on it, and there's more strength in this than there is in this. So I want to use this for my drawstring. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to place it into my yarn feeder, leaving a tail there. We're going to do just one round. Almost all the way around that round, we're going to reset our counter to 0, but I'm going to just do one round. I'm going to let that pick up. I'm going to come around. I'm going to reset my counter to 0 because it makes it easier for the next part. And I'm going to watch for that black divider, and there it is. I'm going to cut off my tail, open the latch. I'm going to pop it into the center. I'm going to hold them out to the side here, and I'll show you why, because I want this yarn tail to be, I want this to go over top of this tail and not underneath. Okay, so I'm going to pull it out to the side here. Then I'm going to take this one, I'm going to put it back into the yarn feeder. Take this out. This can just hang. We're going to actually bring it to the other side of our work once we have it off the machine, because this is the inside part. But we're going to just let it hang there for now. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to knit 16 rows for the head. Now, because our project is starting to touch the table, you want to lift it up and fold it in on itself so that you can maintain a nice even tension around the inside of your barrel to help those loops to come down. But it also keeps it from buckling like this, and the potential of losing one of those loops is good, so you don't want to do that. So we just, and this is hard to roll, it doesn't like to stay, but you do your best. Roll it up and keep going. We're going to knit 16 rows for the head. All right, I'll see you when you have 16 rows done. Clicking on my last round, this is round 16. I'm going to bring that black divider in front of my yarn feeder. There we go. Our head section is done. Now basically what you would do, if you're not using this yarn and you're using a stronger yarn, you're going to cut a tail long enough to go around your barrel 1.5 to 2 times. You're going to open your latch and you're going to pop it in between the last white and the first black, and then proceed with the drawstring cast off. But I'm going to cut this because I'm not going to use that as my drawstring. I'm going to pop this into the center, my worsted weight, just like that. Same amount as though it's attached. And then we'll just tie it off later. And I'm going to grab my needle. So I've got a long strand in there, and I'll tie it off to this one once I have it off the machine. Make sure you shut your latch so that you don't break a needle or break the latch gate. And we're going to put some tension on this because we still need to finish knitting those two. And then I'm going to just do one at a time because this yarn falls off the needles really easily, and I don't want to drop a row. It's hard to pick up a row with this yarn too. So I'm going to make sure there's a long tail there. Then once that needle pops down, I'm going to take this next one off and then the next one. And I literally am going to go one at a time all the way around, simply because of the type of yarn that this is, because I've used it before and it falls off the needles very easily. See, one at a time, just like that, because then this needle is holding that next loop. Pull through. If you're using just a worsted weight yarn and nothing slippery like this one, then of course you can release more and then pick them up. But I'm going to release one at a time. Until I get all the way around. There we go. That was successful. I'm going to set this aside. We're going to grab yarn for the inside of the head, and I'm going to use worsted weight yarn for that. I'm not going to use the same yarn. I'm going to use my, because I want to save it. It's precious yarn, and you're not going to see the head anyways. So I'm going to grab my worsted weight yarn, and we are going to just set that little thing aside. Bring our last white and our first black needle in line with our yarn feeder. And we're going to do the drawstring cast on. This is the inside of the head. Don't miss this part, friends, because you can see the stuffing through the head and through the body of your piece if you don't make a double thickness. I'm going to set my row counter to 0 before I get to the end, and it doesn't look nice. So take the extra time to make this inside piece just like this. We're going to go slowly on our first round, making sure that those loops drop down. This is a fairly new ball, so I have to get some slack. Just like this. And we are going to knit 16 rows. All right, so go ahead, knit 16 rows for the inside of your head, and when you get there, I'll meet you back. Just coming to the end of row 16. There we go. I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to make a tail long enough to go around my barrel 1.5 to 2 times. Open my latch, pop this between the last white and the first black. And I'm going to show you a second way of casting off. Before we did it on this side, now I'm going to do it on this side, just for fun, just because I can. We're going to let that catch, then we're going to rotate 1 full round, stopping our black divider at this screw, because if you go any further, then, well, you can go a little bit further, but then if these needles start to pop up, it'll lift these loops off. All of these loops are now ready to be taken off. So you have to have proper tension to do it this way. And if you're not comfortable with it, then do it the other way that I showed you and remove your stitches. But now I can just take one. Till I get some slack here, I'm just going to do one at a time. Pull sideways, not up. If you pull out to the side, you're not going to risk dropping off the loop off the next stitch. If you pull up and you pull too hard, you'll drop it. Now I'm going to turn my handle. Let's get that loop from under there. And I can probably do a few at a time now. Put your finger over that next one while you pull through, and that's an extra precaution there too. So you can turn so that you can get at it, but don't go so far that the needle starts to pop up, because if the needle pops up before you pick up the loop, it's going to take it right off the red teeth before you get a chance to pick it up. There we go. I'm going to pull that through. Crank. I find this way easier on my back because I can stay sitting. When I do the other way, I have to stand up and bend over, which is okay, like I can, but it does, you know, it's more tiring for the back. So I prefer this way actually. And pull. And I'm going to remove all my stitches. I'm holding them on my needle with my finger as I pick them up. Putting my finger over that next loose stitch. And continuing around. Once we have this piece off our machine, we can remove our machine. If your table where your machine is also your workstation, you can go ahead and remove your machine. And we're going to do some assembly, and then we're going to bring out our 22 needle machine and do the next part. But there we go. I have the inside head done. We're going to stretch that all out. We're going to stretch the other piece too. You're going to stretch widthwise and lengthwise. On the other piece, if you're using the same yarn as I'm using, you just have to be a little bit more gentle. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to remove my machine, and I'll meet you right back. Let's take our inside piece first. I'm going to take one side, doesn't matter which side, and let's pull that. Making sure that you smooth out the top edge as you go. You don't want it all bulky and untidy. So smooth it out. I'm going to cut some of this off because it's way too long. I don't need to fight with it. Throw that in the garbage. Then I'm going to go around and I'm going to reinforce the top of this head just once all the way around, picking up those top stitches. And one more time. Giving that a little nice tight pull. I'm going to pick up a couple strands here and I'm going to tie a firm knot. Push that knot down with your thumbnail and make one more. Just like that. You can pop that into the center. Cut it off. Now we're going to do the same to the other side, but we're going to fill it as we go. So I'm going to smooth that out. Grab some fiber fill. And pop that in there. I want this to be fairly full. You can pull this tight as you go and it helps you to get it right. Oh, I can't wait till this box of stuffing is done and I can buy another one. I mentioned it in the last few videos that the box that I got this time, I buy the big box, and this time the stuffing in it, I don't know, they changed it, but I just don't like the feel of it at all. I don't like it at all. It's just different. And I want my old stuff back. I'm going to stuff that in there. And let's see what I've got here. That should be plenty. I can add just a little bit more. I think that's plenty. Lots. That's lots. I'm going to shape that with my hands there a little bit better. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close the top the same way I did the other side, picking up the top stitches all the way around and pulling closed. So getting underneath that top row of stitches and pulling. And pulling. And that should be good. I'm going to go ahead and take my needle, make a knot in my yarn. Pop that into the center, under the stuffing, out the side, and cut it off. There you go. We have our beautiful head. Let's grab our other piece and we're going to assemble that. All right, so here's where our waist yarn is. So that's the base of our project. We're going to take this and we're going to stretch it out just like we did our other piece. Lengthwise and widthwise. But you're going to go right into there and you're going to find that drawstring yarn that we added right here. And you'll see the little hole that's right beside it. You're going to pop that through and bring it out to the other side so it's easy to find when it comes time to cinch our head from our neck or from our body, and we've easily got access to it. But we're going to go down to the bottom here and we're going to find our yarn tails. We're going to untie them. You're going to need to grab yourself 2 stitch markers. Now if you follow my channel, you know that I love to use bobby pins, so let me just grab a couple here. And they're easy to put in, easy to take out. And what we're going to do is we're going to have our tails to the left side here. Where your waist yarn tail is coming out, it's hard to see on this kind of yarn, but it's coming out of this loop right here. right here. So you just pull on it from the back here, this last loop. And the loop that it's coming through, the very last one, is where you're going to put your stitch marker. You're going to make sure that tail's out. Going to the left of it, here's our working yarn tail. That loop that's right beside it is where you're going to put your stitch marker. I know that I have 46 stitches all around because we have 46 needles on our machine. So we want to find the very side here. So that will be stitches 23 and 24. I'm going to take my crochet hook, and I generally use a 5mm for this, but use whichever you're happy with. And I'm going to count these loops. 1, 2, 3, they're hard to see, 4. Let me just do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. I'm going to put my hook under stitch 24, and I'm going to count that as number 1 because we have to make sure we're counting all of these loops. Make sure every loop is worked, because if you miss one of these loops in this next part, when you take your waste yarn off, you're going to lose your row. Okay, it's going to start dropping. So we're going to count this as 1. It's under loop 24. Then we're going to go up to 23, and we're going to grab it and we're going to put it through that loop. Now we've worked 2. We're going to go down to the bottom here. We're going to pick up that next loop, work it through the loop on your hook. That's 3. Go up to the top. 4. Down to the bottom. 5. Top. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Normal yarn I don't count because I can see it and I've done it enough times. But with yarn like this, I want to make sure. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. 41, 42, 43, 44, and your bobby pins should be 45 and 46, or your stitch markers. And that's the very next one. You can lift up on it to get it under it. That's 45. That will always be 45, or if you're using your Sentro, it will be 47. And this is 46. If you're using your Sentro, it's 48. And then you know that you haven't missed one. You're going to yarn over with your tail, pull it through that last loop, and you have just closed your end successfully. Yay! Move those out of the way. We're going to remove our waste yarn now. So find your tail and pull on it to see which way it's coming. It's going this way. So I'm going to follow that out. 5 or 6 stitches down. I'm going to find the very top row there, and you can see it because if I rock it back and forth, that's the top stitch. I'm going to pinch the stitch and pull out the top row. We have to pull out the top row to get this waste yarn off. I'm going to go down about 6 or 7 stitches. I'm going to find that top row. I'm going to pinch the stitch. I'm going to pull. Go around. You can go quite a few stitches. But if you don't pinch that stitch, it gathers and pulls in there and you'll get a nice knot. So make sure you pinch the stitch. And there we go. There's the top. Gonna pull that almost all the way around, I think. You can cut that long tail off too if it's too hard for you to do. There we go. And then you can go ahead and pull off your waste yarn. And there we go. See? Beautiful. All right, so now we have the body done. We're going to now work on the head. We're going to do our fold up very last. All right. So what you're going to do now is you're going to take your head. We're going to take those drawstrings that we put in there for the side, and we're going to pull them to tighten between the neck and the head, to tighten the neck between the body and the head. Just going to pull them. I don't want them so tight. Got to get some of these yarn tails out of my way. Yarn tails are the bane of my existence. Too long. Okay, so I want to have a nice neck, but I don't want to pull it as tight as I can. I just want to get a nice gather in there. Then we're going to pop that head into there. We're going to lift up on this other one. Bring it around. Then make sure that you don't lose this tail if that's the one that if you're using this yarn. We've got 3 tails here because remember we added one. So now I'm going to just hide. I'm going to cut this one off. Actually, I don't need all that yarn, but I'm going to take these other 2 ones at the top, and I'm going to gather this. But what I forgot to do is, oh my goodness, is to tie a little bit of a knot there, because of course it's going to, just one like that, and then put this back in. Stretch it up and over, and begin to tie it. Could be a little bit tricky, but you can do it. There we go. See how nice that goes when you're using worsted weight yarn? I'm going to quickly give this a knot, just like that. I'm going to let that sit. And remember, we have to take care of that yarn. Then I'm going to go back down to my head here, the base of my head, and we're going to work on this one again. So you're going to smooth that down. This yarn is a little tricky to work with, so you gotta be a little bit more patient. And I'm going to tighten this just a bit more to get it where I want it. But it's worth every second that it takes extra because it's so pretty. Then I'm going to tie a knot. And I think that neck is perfect. Usually I don't hide this until I know that the neck is, I'll add my arms and then I'll make sure that, that I have it the way I want it, but I can tell. I am confident that it's perfect. So I'm going to tie one more knot. I'm going to pop these on my needle. These are metal wool needles that have that nice little loop in them. I'll link them in the description box below. And I'm going to pop that into the neck, into the stuffing, up into the head, and pull and cut it off. Here we go. Now let's take care of the top here. Make sure that you take this third piece that we have and that you give it a good knot too, but don't pull too tight because it'll break. When this yarn is knit up together, it's very firm and sturdy. When you have just a single strand like this, it's not very firm. And so that's why I choose to use the worsted weight to cinch the top together. And there we go. I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide my tails. I am using safety eyes, but they're mushroom button eyes. So you sew them on. I'll just give you a quick little look here. You sew them on, and so they're not going to come off. I'm going to put those on a little bit later, not quite yet. And if you don't have ones like that you can sew on, then you can go ahead and embroider them on. Look on my channel, go to my animal playlist, and you'll find lots of faces that are done with embroidery, and you can go ahead and follow suit and do it that way too. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty positive I have a bunny on my channel with the embroidered eyes, with yarn. So there's some options there for you. Pull that one out, cut it off, and there we go. So far, so good. I have my 22 needle machine set up, and we're going to do the arms. All right, so for the arms, we're going to need to take our waste yarn again, and we're going to bring our last white, first black needle in line with our yarn feeder, and we're going to do the drawstring cast on just like we did with the main body. And it should be behind that last white into the yarn feeder. I'm going to go slow on my first round so I don't split any stitches between those two little red teeth. Many people, including myself, have a problem with that happening on the 22 on a regular basis, and I mention this quite often just because it's something that you need to know. And they'll think that their machine, the needles are faulty, and they'll send their machine back. When really all you got to do is go very slow on the first row and then the second row as well. Find a nice slow speed until you can get your project properly cast on, and then your machine's fine. All right, so it's just a matter of going slow, giving that loop time to drop down over those red teeth without splitting between the two. And that generally fixes the problem. Okay, so I'm going to cut off my waste yarn, open my latch, pop that in between the last white and the first black, and I'm going to set my row counter to 0. We're going to grab our white yarn again. We're going to pop that in to the yarn feeder in between the same two needles, the white and the black there. And I am going to knit the first 4 or 5, help those loops down, pull both tails away from each other just to snug up my tension. We're going to knit 20 rows. All right, so knit 20 rows. Then I took a piece of Bernat Premium worsted weight yarn to do the drawstring cast off on the bigger piece. On this little piece, I'm just going to use this yarn. It's only 22 needles, and it will be fine for us to be able to do it that way. And you're going to leave a long tail. I'm almost there because we'll want to sew up the side. And I want to use the same yarn, although if I use the Bernat Premium, you wouldn't see the seam anyways. But I think for the little arms, and we're not putting much tension on it as we pull it tight, we're fine to use this. So if you're using the same yarn as I am, and I'm near the end of the little ball there, 19 and 20, I think you're okay to go ahead and just use this yarn. So here's the black divider. I'm going to line that up with my yarn feeder. I'm going to cut off a tail that goes around my barrel 1.5 to 2 times. And we're going to do our cast off, placing that on my needle. Open my latch. Make sure that goes between the last white and the first black. I'm going to do my cast off the first way I showed you. See, the problem, this yarn is very staticky. So you might fight with it a little bit, but there we go. Let's do it this way this time. See that? This needle came to the end of its life. The loop broke out. That's why that just slipped in, the yarn came out. But no worries, I have lots more where that came from. Eventually, when you use these needles, which are my absolute favorite, if you pull the needle, and there's lots of tension on it, it'll loosen this loop here, and eventually it will break out. Best thing is when you're pulling your yarn through, never pull from the needle and let this have stress on it. Always grab your yarn and pull that, and it'll last longer. It will eventually give because they're cheap needles, but they're good needles. I'm going to grab another one. I'm going to cast off the way I've done. You can choose whether you're going to do it on this side or that side, just like what we did in our previous pieces, and I'll see you when you have it off your machine. And there we go. I have it off the machine. I'm going to make 2 arms. So I'm going to make 1 more, and then I'll meet you back and we will assemble. All right, so we have our arms off the machine. I'm just going to take one here. Give it a stretch. We're going to seam up this side to make it a flat edge. So to do so, we're going to look for our waste yarn here. Now the last working yarn loop, so this one right here, that this waste yarn is going through. So when I pull on this, this is the last loop that it's going through on my working yarn. I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to put it in that loop. Then if I'm taking my second one, I'm going to go to the right of that, left of that, Here's my working yarn strand. That loop right there, that's right beside it, is the one I'm going to take. Now, because we have 22 needles on our machine, we have 22 of these little loops that you can't see very easily here because of the fuzz, but we have 22 stitches. I want to find the very side one here, so that would be 11 and 12. I'm going to count where my first stitch marker is here, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You might have to stretch it out. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I'm going to put my hook under 12. I'm just taking a 5mm, but you use whatever works good for you. I'm taking my loop, my hook, and I'm putting it under loop 12, and then I'm going to count that as 1 because we have to make sure we count every stitch. I'm going to pick up 11, and I'm going to put it through that loop. Now I've worked 2. I'm going to go down to the bottom here. I'm going to pick up the next one. 3, 4, same as what we did on the body. 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to go all the way across. This will be 21, and this one will be 22. Then I'm going to take my yarn, and I'm going to yarn around, pull it through the last loop, and then I'm going to take my waste yarn off, just like what we did at the base of our main body, okay? So go ahead, close both of your arms up like this, remove your waste yarn, and I'll see you back when you get that part done. There we go. So taking that piece, we're going to then take the end, pull gently, because you don't want to snap this. If you're using the same yarn as I am, I'm not going to add worsted weight. I'm just like regular worsted weight. I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to be very careful on this small little piece. I'm going to pull that tight. I'm just going to go around just to reinforce it, just around the top of that top row of stitches, which is hard to see with this yarn, but you can feel it. There we go. Then we're going to fold our piece right in half, just like this. And I can see these stitches, you may not be able to, but the wide part of the V is going to the left on both sides here. And I'm going to go into the first stitch there, and I'm going to pick up the first bar and the second bar of the next stitch, and I'm going to come through. Then I'm going to go into the first stitch here. I'm going to pick up the first bar and then go into the next one, pick up the second bar, and come through. If you're using fuzzy yarn like this and you can't stay on the same row that you start on, because it is very hard to see it, if you can't, then just do the best that you can to sew it up. Now I see that I came out there, so I'm going to pick up 1, 2. This isn't the best yarn to teach you on if you haven't done this before. This is the invisible stitch, but 1, 2. But you can do it. I know that you can. And then I'm going to go where I came out here. I'm going to pick up that bar in the middle of that stitch, and then the bar in the middle of the next stitch, and I'm going to pull through. Here's where I came out. I'm going to pick up that next bar and the next one. And if you're using this yarn and you absolutely just cannot do this, then just sew it up the side as best that you can, because it's a fuzzy yarn and you're truly not going to really see it anyways. And so for this yarn, you can get away with doing it differently. Then I'm going to pinch the point, and I'm going to pull that gently to close. Oops. And I'm going to continue up to the top. I'm sewing my arm closed like this with this yarn, but when I sew it to the body, I'm going to actually use the other yarn. I'm going to get in there. And 2 stitches, and 2 stitches, and 2. Oops, keeps wrapping around the other side of the finger there, of the arm. And 2. Bring it up to the corner. And up to the corner. I'm going to squeeze where I left off before, because this isn't tight, and I'm going to gently pull that. Oh, that was a bit, I had a little knot in that yarn right there. And then we have that closed. Now I am going to fold this so that that's at the back now. So I have it on the side here. I'm gonna put it in the middle, and then that's gonna go against the body. And I'm gonna tie these two together, that one end to this end to join. I'm gonna cut these both off. I'm gonna tuck them into my arm there, and I'm going to do that to the second one, and then we're going to sew this on together using a strand of different yarn. All right, do that to your second arm, and I'll see you back. Now that we have that done, I'm going to add some worsted weight yarn. Here's where my seam is, although you can't see it at all. I'm going to go into the very center, just like that. I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to hide that extra piece into the center there. Then I'm going to take this piece. Here's where my seam was, so I'm going to have that against the body. I'm going to pick up my body, and then along the side here, where the edge is, I'm going to go into there with my needle, pick up a section, and pull through. And because I placed my yarn tail in the center of my arm, it's going to automatically center it just like that. I'm going to then go ahead. I'm going to pick up this half and the back half, go in where I came out, pick up a stitch, and pull and tighten it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my needle back into both halves here just so I can pick them both up, because we didn't sew it closed. Wasn't a need to. I'm going to pull that, and I'm going to go into the seam there, pick up, and I'm going to pull. You only need about 3 stitches is what I average. I'm going to go back in, and then I'm going to go down the side of the arm, so I want to show you that. I'm going to go into the head, or the neck, sorry, just like that. Pull through. And when I have that on good, I'm going to go down a stitch or 2 on the side of the arm. I don't want to have a sharp edge here, so I'm going to go down a little bit. And then I'm going to go back in and come out in the center where I started. And then when I pull this, it will round off my shoulder. See that? I did it slowly so you could see. Then I don't have a point there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing to this side, sewing that on, then going a stitch down and pulling it into the center. And when I get it into the center, I'm going to put my needle underneath and tie off. I'm going to put both arms on. I'm not going to hide my tail ends until I have both arms on, making sure they're in the right position, so it's easy to remove one if you need to. And that's how I'm going to attach my arms. Go ahead, attach both of your arms, and I'll see you when you're done. There we go, taking a look at the arms and how they're placed. I stuffed that head really tighter than I usually do, actually, but it's nice and round, kind of like it. Check out which side you like better. Do you like that side or a little bit closer together on that side? So you have to choose however you have placed your arms, which ones you like better. I think I'm going to go with this side as my front. All right, and so now that I have them on and I like how they're placed, I'm going to tie off in a knot and hide my ends. Then grab your 22 needle machine. We are going to make the ears. Actually, before we do the ears, I thought I would sew up the bottom here. So I've attached a piece of yarn to the corner there, and we're going to just fold this up about like that. You want to make sure that both corners are evenly folded, so let me just take my tape measure here and give you an idea. I'm going to fold it up about 3 1/4 inches there, 3 1/4 inches there. Go ahead and take your, you can go, I'm going to actually go a little bit higher. I'm going to go there. I'm going to pop my bobby pin into here to just to hold the corner. Then I'm going to measure this again. 3 3/4. And then we're going to measure this side. 3, and that's, it just automatically folds pretty much in the right place. You can eyeball it even. And I'm going to attach that one there. And that is where I'm going to seam it. Now I have adjoined my yarn. It's way too long, so I'm going to cut that too. And I'm going to go to the side here. And I'm going to do the same stitching that I did up the arms. Into there, pick up 2. I'm going to give this a little turn because there we go. Now I've got the wide part of the V going to the left that way. And I'm going to go in there. I have to jump over half a row here just because I was on the wrong row. And I'm going to stitch this all the way down. Picking up 2 bars, just like what we did on the arm. So I'm going in where I came out, right there, picking up 1 and 2. Here's where I came out. I'm going in, I'm picking middle of that stitch and the second one. And we're gonna do that again, all the way down, except for when you get part way down, if you're using this yarn, pull. When you get halfway, don't wait till you get all the way to the end because it'll be too long of a piece to pull and you might break it. And we're almost there. If you're able to get this yarn, you guys, I think you should. It's just so beautiful. And I'm going to go down into the point there. Give that a pull. And go across. Secure with a knot. And another knot. I'm going to hide this between the 2 layers, not into the center, where it's going to be in the pocket, but in between 2 of the layers. Cut it off. Go ahead and do that to the other side. Go. I'm going to grab that, tie a knot. I'm going to hide this end, but I'm going to do it after I finish sewing it up so I don't have to take my needle off this other end. And I'm going to stitch, tie a knot, hide my end, meet you back. There you go. We have a nice little pocket to fill with candy. Now we're going to grab our 22 needle machine and we're going to make the cute little ears. For the ears, we are going to cast on with waste yarn, which I've already done. Save you the time on that for the video. So I cast it on with my waste yarn, did 7 rows. I'm going to take my white yarn, I'm going to pop it in my yarn feeder. I set my row counter to 0. And I'm going to knit 7 rows of white. First, I'm going to knit the first few. I'm going to help it down and fix the tension. We're going to knit 7 rows. And 1 more. Watching for that black divider to come around. I'm going to stop it in front of my yarn guide there. I'm going to cut off my tail of my white, open my latch, pop it in between the last white and the first black. And I'm going to take my second color. Now this comes in lots of different colors. This happens to be the only other color that I have at home, but I do love I did one ear already and I love how it looks. But you can choose a lighter color if you want a light blue or light pink or whatever you desire, or you can leave your ears completely white, totally up to you. But this one is called Eggplant and it's beautiful. I'm going to take Eggplant and I'm going to pop it into my yarn feeder, I'm going to do a jogless join, which probably isn't necessary for fuzzy yarn like this. You probably won't see the jog in the join, but in case you're not using the same yarn, I'm going to do it with you. So I put it into the center, then I swung it around to the other side of the last white needle, because we're knitting in the spiral, and every time you knit another row, it goes on top. And by doing the jogless join and tightening it the way we're going to tighten it after 3 rows, we're going to pull it into line, and it's going to be straight, and you're not going to see that discrepancy in your join. We're going to fix our tension. We're going to knit 7 rows of, pardon me, we did 7 rows of white. We're going to only do 3 rows of eggplant. So 1, or of your second color, 2, and 3. Watching for that black divider to come around. It's right there. Before I do anything else, I'm going to take these 2. I'm going to pull them gently away from each other, and you'll feel when they fall into place. Just like that. It's easier to do with 4 after knitting 4 or 5 rows, but in this case, I'm going to just do it after the 3rd row, because then I'm going to change my colors. I'm going to cut that, open my latch, pop that tail between the last white, the first black, and I'm going to take my white, swing it around to the other side of that white needle. We're going to knit 3 or 4, 5 needles, help those down under the dividers, pull the tails away from each other. We're going to knit 7 rows. I'll do one more color change with you. All right, so that's row 17 on our counter. We're going to cut our tail, pop it into the center between the last white, the first black. We're going to take our second color, pop that in there. We're going to do our jogless join. We're going to knit 4 or 5. We're going to fix our tension. We're going to knit 3 rows. 1, 2, 3, and it should say 20 on your counter. We've done 20 rows so far. We're going to fix our tension. Tie it off, cut it off, and we're going to keep that patterning, which will look like this until we get to, so 7 and 3 is 10, 20, 30, 47 rows. So you're going to end on your white. So again, we're doing 7 and 3, 7 and 3, 7 and 3, 7 and 3, 7. 10, 20, 30, 47 rows in total. And when you get to the end of your 47th row, your last section of 7 white, you're going to cut off a long tail, and you're going to do the drawstring cast off, as we've been doing all along in our project. All right, make 2. Taking those ears, we are going to mark our 2 stitches, number 1 and number 22. We're going to go around, and we're going to put our hook into stitch number 12. Counting around 1 to 12, and we're going to count that as number 1 on our hook. We're going to take number 11, work it through, that's 2, and we're going to go down, and we're going to close this end just like we did our arms. And when we get to the end, we're going to tie off, hide our ends, remove our waste yarn. Do that for both, and then I'll meet you back. Once that is done, we're going to, take our needle. We're going to hide that end, because this one's I want to actually, you can choose. If you have a long enough end and you want to sew it on to the top of the head with this yarn, you can go ahead, but the ears are going to be played with a lot harder than the arms are, I think. So I'm going to use the other yarn, but your choice. I'm going to cut that off. Then we're going to go down to the bottom here, and we're going to pull that drawstring to close. Put that on your needle. And I'm just going to go around and reinforce that bottom row, just the very, very first row. We're going to go around and pick it up with our stitch, or with our yarn, and we're going to close it nice and tight. There we go. And then I'm just going to take it over to that other side, tie a knot. One more time. tie a knot, hide your tail. Grab yourself a piece of heavier yarn. Again, I've been using the Bernat Premium worsted weight yarn, and we're going to attach it up into the corner of our piece, just like this, but with different yarn. Once we have that yarn attached, we're going to take the top and we're going to fold it in half, and we're going to join. Oops. Just like that. And here's our, if you do it the other way, then you just flip that, but here's our, or if this is sitting like that, just flip it so that the bowl is on the same side as your edge here. And then we're going to take that, this goes to the front, and we're going to take it up to the top. Here's where our arm is. Let's grab that, put that on top of the arm and climb it up. We're going to go up and we're going to sew that onto the head, not right at the center. Here's my center. I'm down just a little bit, and I'm going to pick up my section on the head. Oh, I got to change my needle. 1 second. All right, so taking that piece, I'm going to line it up with the arm, come up, and I'm going to hold it tight. This yarn is hard, or project is hard to hold because it's so soft and slippery. I'm going to go about, I don't know, half an inch, little ways down, and I'm going to pick up a section of the head and then go through, there we go, my piece just like that. Now here's the center and here's the center, and that's how you want to line it up basically. And then I'm gonna pick up into the head, pick up into the ear, pick up into the head, and pick up both halves of the ear because I have not sewn them together. See, so I've got that back half there and the front half. And I'm going to sew that across. I have to take it off the table because it's slipping on the table and I'm reaching, so I want to do a nice job. And I'm going to just sew that down like that. Then I'm going to take the other one. I'm going to do the same thing, sew it in half. And with the folded part in the front here, we're going to line it up and we're going to sew it on just like that. Oh, it's going to be so adorable. So there's about a quarter of an inch, I would say. A quarter, maybe a bit more than a quarter of an inch from the center. You'll have to just look at it and see what looks great to you. Don't put it down too far and don't put it right up to the center. Okay, leave a space. Our bunny is looking precious. We're going to grab our 22 needle machine one more time and we're going to make the bow. All right, so go ahead and do that. And just while I'm thinking about it, I grab some smaller ones. I don't know what the size of these were. It's the last pair that I had left. I think they're a 12 millimeter. I think the 15 were way too big, so I grabbed ones that were a 12 millimeter. I think they're a 12 millimeter, so I'm going to use those. If you have 10 millimeter, that's probably even better. 10 or 12, somewhere in there. I will link these button eyes in the description box below because they really are brilliant. All right, so grab your 22 needle machine one more time and we'll move on to the next part. To make the bow tie for the front, we're going to grab our waste yarn. We're going to cast on with the drawstring cast on, letting it slip through our fingers. Into the yarn feeder it goes. I'm going to knit 7 rows. We're going to take our second color, pop that into our yarn feeder. We're going to knit 4 or 5 needles. We're going to fix the tension. We're going to knit 20 rows. All right, I'll see you when you get to 20. I have completed 20 rows and I just wasn't even thinking, and I grabbed those same waste yarn that I was using, and I can barely see the stitches, but I'll be able to see them. You won't be able to see them very easily when I show you on the camera, so I'll show you on a different side. But I'm going to grab, but just a little note for you, when you're changing colors, make sure that you change your waste yarn color if need be. Look at this, it's just so, there we go. We're going to pop in a color I can see, And we're going to, don't need to fix the tension because this is coming out, it's waste yarn. I'm going to knit 7 rows, but this time I'm not going to do a drawstring cast off because it's just a little piece, and I'm going to just set it aside, and I'll be able to get to it to close up the end before it starts to unravel, no doubt. If you're dealing with bigger pieces and you're setting them aside and you're not going to get to them right away, or you're jostling them a lot to you know, as you're working on the project, then you want to do the drawstring cast off to hold these stitches. Now I'm going to close that, and I'm going to just rotate my barrel twice, and it comes off. But these stitches are loose, so I mean, this can start unraveling, but because it's such a small piece and I'm going to get to it soon, I'm just going to leave it again. But these are not being held by any cord, so if it starts to unravel and makes it down to your project, it'll start to unravel your project. So be very, very careful. Let's move our machine out of the way and continue on with assembly. Here's my piece. I'm going to stretch it out. Now, I've showed you how to find the loops on the end of our project. Let's go to the other side, which is going to be hard to see because, I mean, sorry, I've showed you how to find the loops on the beginning of our project. And so I'm not going to show you that one, which is great because this is hard to see. But on the end of our project, when you use waste yarn, when you take a look at your working yarn that's going down, that last loop that it went through right there is the one you're going to mark. Then going to the left, your working yarn here, when you pull on this loop here, it's the last loop that this yarn tail made. That's the one you're going to put it in. Can be a little confusing which are the first and the last, so I like to show you. You're going to make sure you bring those outside of your work, and then you're going to close up the same way we did before, counting around till stitch 12, putting it in, counting that as 1, going back and forth, closing off, hiding your ends, removing your waste yarn. Do that on both ends, and then I will meet you back. All right, so we have that done, and we're going to hide our ends. And then we're going to take another piece of yarn, same color, but a bit longer. We're going to pop that onto our needle. And we're going to, well, first I'm going to fold it and find the half. Fold it lengthwise. So here's the ends we closed up. I'm going to just find the center just like that. And I'm going to find the center up here, just like that. Just pull it through just like that because you just want it even. And then I'm going to just squeeze these two together. Once I've determined where my center is, get that one out of the way. And I'm going to just wrap. Wrap and pull. Doesn't feel like center. There we go. And then wrap. That just helps me to get a nice, see how it just put automatic pleats in there too. Just helped me to get the center and to get a nice little gather. There we go. That's all I want to do. I'm going to hide this end, but I'm going to take it to the back first. And I'm going to tie it off with this longer piece. That's one knot. There's the second knot. I'm going to hide this end and I'm going to leave this one long, and I'll be right back. There we go. Just trying to cut out some camera time. Doing a couple of the things that don't need to be filmed, and I just tied another knot to secure into the center there. I'm going to take my beautiful little bunny and I'm going to find the center here. And I'm just going to pick up a stitch. I love it. And sew it on. And then I'm going to go ahead, pick it up again, and pull. and I'm going to secure it. I'm going to do it one more time. One more time, then I'm going to knot it off. Let's just do it together. It's not hard to do. I'm going to actually put it through the back into the front, just like that. I'm going to just secure it a little bit better. Pull on it, then I'm going to go back in and into the center there. There we go. And then when I pull that, it pulls that center in a little bit better. So go ahead and do that. Bring it up, then make a little stitch and go back in. Now I'm going to knot it off and hide my ends. So adorable. Now for the eyes. And the thing I love about the eyes is that you can use, for these bigger ones, you can use worsted weight yarn to sew them on. So because this needle fits through the hole. So I put one on just to see if I like where it's placed. Then I'm going to just pop that in. And again, I'm going to link these in the description box below. And I'm going to pick up a section just like that and just put it on and see if I like where they're placed before I sew them down. And that's where they're going to sit. I think it's perfect because now you have the option to, move them around and then decide where they're going to go. And you can easily take them off and put them back on. So I'm going to place those just like that. And I'm just going to simply sew them on like I normally would a button. Go back into that stitch and go through. A little hard to grab, but you can do it. Yay, Shelley, you're having problems. Get that pulled through. Second time is a little bit tighter. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two and I'm going to pull tight and pull tight, and then I'm going to hide my ends. It's on there tight, you guys. It's on there tight. Put this back onto your needle. Take it down into your work, under the stuffing, pull it through, and cut it off. Lift up on your work where your cut was, and there you go. Do that to your second eye. Taking some pink yarn onto our needle, we're going to come up the side of the head. We're going to come out on the left corner of our nose. There we go. Leaving a tail here so we can hide our end. I'm going to go across and then come down to a point in the center. Just like that. You'll see in 1 second. So we made our straight edge. Now we came down into a point in the center. It's not quite the center, so I'm going to go back into there. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull it out here. Attention to detail, make sure it's the center. Do that again. This is the part of the stuffing, when I said at the beginning that they've changed the stuffing, it's hard to get under. Like with your poking it with your needle, it's just more dense. I'm not thrilled with it. And there we go, that's more center. Then I'm gonna come back up, go over to this other side again, back down to the point, and then I'm gonna begin filling in my nose, going above that strand as my guide. I don't want to see that line, so I go above it and then come down. And come right beside that last stitch. Use my thumb to guide that, make that strand straight. Or your needle, you can take your needle and do that as well. Go back in. Come up. Guide that one, and I'm going to fill in the nose. Don't pull it too tight, just nice and flush with your project. See, it's the stuffing. It's not the needle, you guys. It's the stuffing. It's horrible. And back in. One more, right like that. You don't want to make it too thick and come down. What I always do is I outline my nose again. When I've got it filled in the way I want to, I go ahead and I outline it one more time just on the corner. See how wonky that is? We're going to fix it. I'm going to come up to this corner. If I can get my needle to go through, I'm going to straighten out this one on the end. Then I'm going to straighten out that one into the point, and I'm going to come straight down. Straight down. So this side is going to be, see the difference that made? And then I'm going to just go up into that point, back down to the where I was coming out, pull through, and I'm going to go back up into the point and out where I came in on the side here. And pull that flush, but don't pull it too tight. Then you can take these two, tie this off. Don't pull it tight because that'll pull on that. Tighten the second one. Put this back on your needle. Go in to that same spot, under the stuffing, come out in another place, pull up, cut off, take your needle and lift up on that section right there, and then where you cut off, and there we go. Grab all your treats and let's fill our bunny. Bring your arm out there. And we have completed our bunny. I just think that he looks just so beautiful. Now, this color that you're seeing here, the stripes, is more accurate to the true tone of the shade of the yarn than during the video. The eggplant color is a darker shade like this. And in the video, with the lighting difficulties that I had, it looks much lighter. So just so you know, this is the actual shade, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I hope you do too. I can't wait to see the ones that you make. Please don't forget to post in my Facebook group. I really love to see the projects that you make from my channel, and it's very encouraging to me, and I know that it's inspiring to others as well. And when you're posting in other Facebook groups, which I hope you do, please always add the link or state that you have got the pattern from Koala Knits and Knacks. That helps people to find my channel, and it's a great way for you to support me, so I thank you for that. Thank you so much. All right, so thanks again for being a part of my community, for joining me in this tutorial. I hope you've had fun. Take care, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Have a blessed day.